Okay, on behalf of Mastercard, let me express my appreciation to the forum organizers for the opportunity to participate in this session. This is a great honor for me to moderate this session with our distinguished speakers. If you allow me, I would like to make a brief introduction on what is inclusive digitalization, it's such a complex term. What is our contribution as Mastercard? Then I pass the floor to our distinguished speakers, and then we'll have some interactive part where we will have some Q&A. We'll be getting some questions from the audience. Can you switch my PowerPoints, please? As they say at Mastercard, there are some things you can buy for money. For the rest of it, there is Mastercard. Just a couple of words what Mastercard is. Mastercard, this is a company that issues plastic cards. Some people believe Mastercard is a technology company that first and foremost offers solutions and decisions in the area of payments, money remittances, e-commerce, everything related to payments, banking, non-banking financial institutions, merchants, governmental institutions, and so on. So a priori, the Mastercard's activity presumes the development or actually promoting digitalization. Digitalization promotes the inclusive attitude. So our mission sounds like this: world beyond cash. Getting to the inclusivity, what is inclusive growth? Oh, well, basically, I checked the term in order to be particular about this definition. The inclusive development is a process that ensures equal access of all segments of society are able to reap the benefits of an expanding economy. These can be basic things, access to utilities, financial services, and other benefits. And more complex things, access to information, education, science. Mastercard has this global initiative based on the Center of Inclusive Development, and our global objective is to make sure that 1 billion people globally become users of the digital economy services. This can be achieved via different sub-goals, supporting entrepreneurship, including women's entrepreneurship, SME development, racial inequality elimination programs. Now I'd like to show you a very brief video that will show the whole essence of our work and our vision of the inclusive development. Thank you for your attention. You might think, what does it have to do with this region? Central Asia, I think it's got everything to do. Our inclusive development program continues in this region, and I'll give you a couple of examples how this one goes, what specific initiatives. Girls for Tech, this is the program we do, teaching young girls in the IT basics and financial literacy. Enables young ladies to get more confidence and understanding in the future should they decide to pick up these professions. This is the STRIVE program for SME development. We are together with our partners, provide information and technology support. The program started in this region this year, and we support about 500,000 SMEs. Plus, there's an e-commerce school, based on which there are various incubator-based programs together with our partners, with the student startups. These are just a few examples. We have dozens of initiatives locally. Let me now pass the floor to our distinguished speakers. And after this introduction, I would like to give the floor to Mikhail from the World Bank. Mikhail, what's your take, well, on the situation? You've got some extensive expertise. You have the opportunity to compare some of our objective data with the rest of the world. We, as Central Asia, we in terms of digitalization, inclusive growth, are we on the map, and what are the solutions for that in the future? Thank you, Ainur. Just would like to say that those questions that you've just voiced, well, they hit the target from the standpoint of what we do, what I wanted to cover in my presentation. Well, is this a warm-up question, or should I get down to my key points? Because my presentation is an answer to this. Can you get the mic closer, please? Yes. Let me speak standing. My slides are in English, but since Ainur set the tone, let me speak Russian with your permission. These are some of the opportunities and challenges that the countries of Central Asia face. CA is basically stands for Central Asia. You can classify this in several categories. Number one, access to the internet, connectivity. Number two, digital skills. Number three, the infrastructural development and industry, data management, data industry, data usage as the economic resource. I think these are some of the key three planes where some of the greatest opportunities and challenges for Central Asia are. And I think the World Bank and our digital development program, I think on a global scale and within the region of Central Asia, this one basically concentrates on these areas. Today I would like to highlight some of these areas, try to talk about this as applicable to the countries of the region. Well, it's really hard to say whether the glass is half full or half empty. But of course, a lot of progress has been made in recent years in every country of Central Asia. Well, in terms of all of these main directions, the massive scale government programs are being implemented, the programs with the private sector participation, but I just would like to highlight some of the remaining issues. Number one, on the global scale, digital divide remains as relevant as ever. The greater share of the populace remains offline. The great share of the populace does have access to the internet, but doesn't really use it. Getting back to the data economy, only a little share of the data generated globally finds its active application in the country's economic lives. Speaking now about the situation in the area of access to the internet, well, we can see that here there is certain lag of the countries of Central Asia from the average regional value for Asia and the global leaders. Apologies for maybe the screen format is not readable for the whole room. Maybe later you can get access to this presentation after the forum. But here we can see that on the one hand, Kazakhstan is one of the leaders from the standpoint of the internet traffic per capita, international internet bandwidth per capita. Although in Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan the situation isn't really bad versus the rest of the flock, but the countries of Central Asia are seriously lagging behind. In Kazakhstan, as a leader, they still lag behind as the US, the Netherlands, and Singapore. The same can be said about the fixed access, internet fixed access. The penetration in the countries of Asia, while there is some serious lag in general, from the average values across Asia. And since here the forum is the economic one, with the emphasis on investments, of course we might speak about remaining limitations in the internet access and the volumes of traffic that is available for the countries of Central Asia as a problem for the use by the local population, the opportunities related to the digital economy. But we can also speak about the fact that Central Asia is not yet able to utilize its transit potential to ensure traffic between Asia and Europe. Well, of course, we need to speak about this in some more detail. I just would like to highlight this particular point that Central Asia has a lot of potential to participate in the internet highways between Europe and Asia. Well, basically, at the World Bank, we're prepared a standalone report for this, and hopefully soon we will be able to present it.
Also, once we're speaking about mobile internet usage, here we have growth. However, the mobile internet speed is lagging behind from world leaders. And here is how much time required to download 5 gig films in HD format in different countries. One of the organizations is making these measurements on a regular basis. And here we see the situation in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, seemingly not so bad versus those countries which are obviously lagging behind. But definitely this time in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, the download time significantly higher versus the developed countries. And we also have here a time picture in terms of the broadband internet speed, and we see that there is no obvious trend of soaring up for the Central Asian countries in terms of this graph. We see that the other countries are in higher dynamics in terms of this parameter. So I think there is definitely space for improvement for Central Asian countries. International Telecommunication Union had the survey over the development of broadband internet development in the world, and we see that the internet investments requirement are really high in terms of reaching broadband internet coverage in the world, and there is a definite need for the PPP, private public partnership. 75 to 25% is the proportion in terms of investments on behalf of the government versus private sector. In other words, 75% should be up to private sector and 25% up to the government. But also we have to be focused on the catalyst role by the government in order to mobilize investments into the private sector through the PPP and co-financing of various projects. And of course, the governmental role is pivotal here in terms of investments attraction into the regulation and IT skills. And here we have the resume of the various trends for internet development in Central Asia. I don't want to dwell on every point here, but definitely some of these points is worth to speak in greater details within my presentation. Back into the economic role and why the access to the internet is so important. And we spoke about this several times. The World Bank had a survey recently which proves that to every 10% penetration of broadband internet, the growth equals 1% in terms of GDP. This survey was in global scale, which demonstrates economic impact of internet. And also it is important to bear in mind the impact on jobs creation. On every 1,000 users of new users for the internet, on average 80 new jobs are created. And there are a number of other economic indicators in terms of positive internet impact. And here we have some important measures which are required for making use and making the most of broadband internet growth and digital economy growth as well. Of course, firstly, we're talking about increased private investments and competition, which also about area number 2, which is improve access and affordability and security. And number 3 is managing and regulating telecom. And now if we are talking about the economy of data, here we have on one hand a big capacity, a lot of data being generated every minute, and some of the extracts are presented in this slide. Significant digital computation development and of course cloud computing are obvious, and this big data, this huge resource, is not used. Less than 1% of data being generated are actually employed by the economy. And several years ago, the World Bank published a world development report specifically on the data for development, and here we have a resume of the main findings of this report. Some channels demonstrate economic value generation through the data. First of all, we're talking about private individuals' data usage, and then government data usage, as well as private sector data usage. And here, one of the most important things is that on one hand we have huge opportunities, and on the other hand we have also big risks, because specifically our forum is dedicated to the computer cloud computing development in Central Asia and more effective data usage. Then of course we have to think about personal data protection, and cybersecurity are the main priorities for Central Asia. We should not expect arrival of big players there, and also either we should not expect that the Central Asia would offer data storage for EU and other big players. We could expect this only in this case when the data law in the Central Asian states will be harmonized with the same legislation in the EU and United States. And here we see our vision in terms of ecosystem structure for data use. Infrastructure definitely is very important, as well as human resources, economic policy, and financial matters are very important. And here we have in greater details a picture on the main parameters for eco-data development. This is a comprehensive topic indeed, including broadband internet access, which is the prerequisite for effective data usage. Now I would like to dwell on the skills and digital literacy, the topic which was touched upon by Ainur at the very start of the session. And again, I should underscore the specific divide between those who employ digital economy opportunities and those who don't. The more than 1 billion people do not use digital services of the banks, and more than 800,000 do not use digital ID. And without this, it is very difficult to imagine digital economy in general. That is why such companies' efforts like Mastercard are instrumental in terms of inclusion people into digital banking services, beefing up digital literacy. And on behalf of the World Bank, currently we have a big program. First of all, it is for Africa and some Asian countries where the issue regarding digital ID is very acute. There we have a whole project which is aimed at overcoming this problem. Of course, Central Asian countries, they have a different perspective of this issue, but financial digital inclusion of people is a very important thing indeed. And also it is very important to say that 50% of people under 30 live in rural areas, and we need to be focused on these people specifically in terms of inclusion into digital economy. And I would like to say in a nutshell what we're doing here in Central Asia in this regard. The presentation sums up our understanding of the main points we have to be focused on in terms of people's inclusion into the digital economy. And here I would like to say about our endeavors in Central Asia. In Kazakhstan, as my colleague yesterday spoke in her welcoming remarks, she said that we are at the final stage of project preparation, which is about provisioning internet into the rural remote areas where the problem with internet is so acute. We are currently working on some pilot provinces in Kazakhstan, but we would like to scale up this project up to developing 5G infrastructure in the most remote areas of Kazakhstan, which is consonant with the Kazakh government program in this area. If we're talking about personal data protection, here we have a small but important role in the project which we're drafting together with the government of Kazakhstan, which is about harmonizing Kazakh legislation in terms of data protection with the world leaders, first of all with the EU. As far as Uzbekistan is concerned, there we are preparing digital inclusion project, and on one hand this project is linked with digital literacy upgrade, first of all young people, and if we're talking about digital coverage of young individuals, there we would like to finance within this project quite a big program on comprehensive digital skills development amongst Uzbek youth in terms of digital and communication skills, as well as language knowledge, to give Kazakh youth to be part of IT-enabled services industry and in the business process sector outsourcing, which is developing very fast in Uzbekistan. But Uzbekistan sets up more ambitious goals
in terms of getting involved in the global outsourcing area, and they make an emphasis on making sure this process is inclusive, so the benefits go to the unemployed young people in Uzbekistan or the vulnerable groups in terms of employment. In Kyrgyzstan, we continue to fund a project, namely providing broadband internet connectivity. This work is underway. The bulk of the project is associated with designing the cloud infrastructure, the government cloud infrastructure in Kyrgyzstan. In Tajikistan, we're also working on a project related to digital services of the government. I think I will wind up here. All information is available on internet. To summarize, the objective the Central Asian countries are setting is to providing internet connectivity to have 100% coverage, alignment with the global leaders. A lot of work is in store for them. They need to develop data infrastructure and the related legislative framework. Number 3, digital skills. And the regulatory framework, something that is needed for all the above things. Thank you, Mikhail. This is a very in-depth analysis. I would now like to hear the opinion of our distinguished local representatives, representatives of hubs and parks, how they envision all the things mentioned by Mikhail in terms of internet access, quality, digital literacy, protection of personal data, because you are working out there in the field, you live in these realities. Can you share your opinion? Tanat, please, what does Kazakhstan do to promote digitalization and inclusive development? Thank you for a very interesting presentation. I agree that we do face these issues in Kazakhstan. We as Astana hub, I can say that we have a specialized agency responsible for internet. I can share the information I know, the projects they are implementing. Recently we had a Digital Bridge, a major forum. And as our minister noted, he's tired of requesting our telecom operators, major monopolies, to provide internet in rural areas. They decided to take a different route. They will provide internet coverage for 200 rural schools. They signed an agreement with SpaceX, Starlink, and these schools will have internet access. In order to provide equal access to services, to make sure people are involved in the digital economy, I think everything starts with the government policy to provide equal access for everyone. Now that eGov is developing rapidly, now the ministry is uniting all the data, is setting up a huge data lake, which makes it possible to design various services for our citizens. The first project implemented by the ministry, it's strange that I'm telling you about the ministry's project. In fact, it was mentioned at the previous session. The concept is invisible government, when all the services will be available on internet. From birth to death, everything will be digital. Some colleagues presented a number of interesting projects, like a digital family or map of a family, a digital family map. Those who get social assistance, targeted assistance, and for every city they made all the families digital, and so they have a good picture of those who need this social assistance, in order with a view to provide equal access to services for everyone. As part of Astana Hub, let me tell you that our #1 goal is to develop the IT ecosystem to promote our economy. We work a lot with our young people, designing various online courses, providing equal access. Everything is digital. Anyone can come to us and learn some digital skills develop skills at various digital venues. Recently we had an interesting project. It's called ITIL, IT Woman in English. It was implemented jointly with EPAM. It's a special commission for women's affairs. I don't remember the exact name. 2,000 unemployed women aged 18 onwards had access to our online courses. The first course is a no-code academy, which explains to you how to set up some web applications, sites, and other services without having programming skills. The next course is a freelance call. If you learn to set up applications, you can sell your services at international freelance trade floors. It was accompanied by various workshops, online sessions. EBAM was also involved and contributed substantially to this work. We recently summarized this program. 50 participants came to Astana. We gave them various awards. It was interesting to see various results. The results were quite interesting. Somebody set up a service for relocants, people who relocated. Somebody created an application, something that could be used by mothers. The results were quite good, and I guess we will go ahead and do this program on a regular basis. Let me tell you about the key things, something you can be proud of, the moderator is saying. My colleague Aida is here. We had a huge project with UNICEF. It was called Accessible Kazakhstan. The idea is to set up a mobile application and a site so that people with disabilities can build safe routes to some facilities in town. So they show alternative routes or paths in terms of how accessible the building is, how safe it is, whether there are some ramps, etc., etc. Involved in the project were a number of people. They made over 21,000 facilities digital, covering 22 cities. Over 500 volunteers were involved. Over 15 NGOs participated in it. We take pride in it. It's still working. It's available for everyone. We also participate and provide active support to our partners' projects. There's a big fund called Teach Me. What they do, they help people with disabilities. They provide training in the area of IT. Recently, they voiced the results of training mobile graphic, SMM, graphic design, development. It's great that there are some private initiatives and private foundations. So this very project was financed by Chevron, a company that contributes to this area. InDrive company Arsen Tomsky provides active support for young people, providing access to their resources. They have a Begin IT program helping children from rural areas, trying to nurture their interest in IT. what they do, they provide financial assistance to schools, they supply computers to computer classes, and teach children some basic skills of programming. To finish, I'd like to say we have a Tech Orda project. The idea is that all the citizens of Kazakhstan have free of charge access to IT skills training. Last year, we earmarked 3,000 vouchers, and any citizen could use them and get some IT specialization. By the end of the year, we hope to train 20,000 specialists in IT. We also plan to expand our work all over Kazakhstan. Thank you, Tanat. We can see that you have a number of pinpoint projects to boost the potential of our people, of young people and people with disabilities. We do hope that this will come to fruition. I guess the next floor will go to Jakhongir, who will tell us what our neighbor Uzbekistan is doing in that sense. Good morning. Good afternoon. Should we start with the presentation or answering questions? I would like to thank my colleagues, those who have already made a presentation and told us about the initiatives currently implemented in Kazakhstan. Do we have a clicker? A question regarding internet channels. In Uzbekistan, all schools, general secondary schools, all the medical facilities of the Ministry of Health, MOH, hospitals, outpatient clinics are 100% connected to internet in all parts of the country. It is over 10,000 schools. I don't remember the exact number of hospitals and outpatient clinics. They all have internet connectivity. We have certain annual plans which the general channel is 1200 megabits per second. 99% of Uzbekistan have internet coverage. Even the remote areas have access to internet. The government invests in the areas which do not make economic sense, but areas that do require internet connectivity. Mikhail, are you agreeable with it as an independent expert?
Uzbekistan is 99% covered by internet. Do you agree with this? Of course, I agree with this. It's just whether the whole set is available, the speed and the quality of internet. So this is debatable, whether the glass is half empty or half full. So there are significant achievements, but we need to work. So we are moving gradually. So we need to improve the quality of internet. Of course, we are increasing the total channel and the cost per 1 megabit and improving quality. So 99% coverage, and sometimes it's 3G, sometimes it's 2G, so we need to consider this. Now talking about the IT park activities in Uzbekistan, it's an organization which develops IT industry. So one of the tasks is to increase export. Our export is divided in 3 areas: IT outsourcing and all the services that the company the customer may outsource. And IT outsourcing, it's clear. It's to develop the code, technical support, and game dev. We have 1,500 residents. By the end of the year, more than 300 million export. So for 9 months, it's more than $250 of residents. 250 companies with foreign capital and 400 exporter companies. The main markets are US, Europe, UK, and EMENA region. Now I will talk briefly. We are developing IT infrastructure throughout Uzbekistan. We are developing IT education to provide accessible and free education. We develop startup ecosystem and international cooperation with international financial institutions and other strategic partners. We also have special tax treatment which allows the companies not to pay corporate taxes. We have more than 200 centers throughout Uzbekistan and 250 educational residents, the residents that do IT education. In all areas and in Karacal, Pakistan, we have IT park branches. There are offices where companies may come and get low price offices and equipment. So we help them to scale up their business. As to the residents, the companies pay no corporate taxes. They don't pay social taxes. They pay salary tax. It's reduced from 12% for 7.5%. Also, we have several programs where we help. It's a one-stop shop. Many foreign companies don't want to do registration, to open a bank account and hire their employees. So we provide turnkey services. We also have relocation programs for IT residents. They don't have to get the permission to hire IT employees. And also we have IT visas for the developers, employees, investors, and owners for 3 years. Also we have soft landing. We help with offices, with premises, hospitals, schools, kindergarten. We help the people and employees to feel themselves comfortable when relocated. We have a lot of programs that support inclusivity. I couldn't include them all. So I first wanted to talk about local projects more. There is an Inclusive Education Center, which we have opened together with ITU and Koika. We've opened the center to train people with hearing difficulties. So there are 3-4 waves of education where children can get IT education on special equipment and start working. Also, there are several regional projects inside of Uzbekistan. It's training 3,000 girls in Khorezm area. Khorezm province is more conservative, where the girls cannot be employed because there are some difficulties with this in the families. So we gave this opportunity for girls to study both basic computer and digital skills and to have apprenticeship. In Sukhud Darya province in Termez, we've launched a center which trained Afghani children. So it's a transboundary area where there are lots of vulnerable population, both for Uzbekistan and Afghanistan. And Afghani children, they may get quality education. Also, we have large projects such as Digital Inclusion Project with the World Bank. It's more than $50 million, where we train the entire population, and we focus on the people with limited opportunities and for girls. So we provide jobs for them. It's a full cycle, starting from training to employment. So this project is being developed and we'll start recruiting students from the next year. So this will be one of the locomotives of our IT park in Uzbekistan. Also, Tumari Stake. It's an annual project to support women entrepreneurship, women initiative in Central Asia. We have there 5 members, 5 countries. We had 2 waves already. We're planning to host the 3rd wave. This project was recognized from ITU as the first place capacity building in 2022. So it was highly recognized due to its wide coverage. And there are several initiatives to develop women entrepreneurship from the School of Trackers, Business Angels schools, Business Acceleration program. There are exhibitions, hackathons for girls. It's an interesting project. Other projects are less in coverage. It's skills first girls for children and for computer literacy and graphic design together with OSCE and Uzum. We have lots of programs. I've just highlighted the most interesting ones. All of these programs are to establish new jobs, so by 2030 we'd like to increase the number of people who are working in our area up to 300,000, which is 10 million square meters of offices and 5 billion export by 2030. Thank you, Jakhongir. There are specific measures done by Uzbekistan IT Park in order to attract investors and to grow their own IT startups. It's very interesting. Now I'd like to give the floor to Aziz. If you could talk about how things are evolving with inclusion, inclusive development, and what are the challenges, what are the perspectives. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank StrategEast for the wonderful opportunity to be here. Almaty for Kyrgyzstan is the closest city, and I'm happy to be here at this panel. And also Astana Hub, I'd like to congratulate them with their 5th anniversary. Yesterday they have celebrated 5th anniversary on the 6th of November. Congratulations. Recently Farhod Ibrahimov made a report. There are impressive results, and Makhjan too. So Uzbek IT Park and Astana Hub, for us, this is the Central Asian Brotherhood. We promote this, and we are good friends, and it's very good that we are not alone, that we have such brothers in Central Asia, and we can elaborate easily. We can cooperate and coordinate some projects and activities. The women program is almost everywhere, girls in programming, so it's a big joint project in Central Asia. We've done Central Asian Award, so somewhere at the Isiku Lake, probably Philip will support us, so the StrategEast would appear there. Or we can do that something up in the mountains in Shibuya Resort. So perhaps we should join some of the Central Asian initiatives. A colleague of mine, Dina Ruslan, we have a strong girls community. In Kyrgyzstan, this is due to the communities that everything is moving from top to bottom. You remind us on the internet results. I agree with you completely. We have a landlocked country, and 20 years ago the average salary was $35 in Kyrgyzstan. And so in order to break through, and this was thanks to internet, we started to search for the IT opportunities, and traditionally we had outsourcing. It started to develop, and so the internet became an ocean of opportunities. We're saying that we don't have oil and gas, but people became our only capital that we had in Kyrgyzstan. So I'm thankful that due to internet, IT Park of Uzbekistan, Astana Hub, and our Park of High Technologies in Kyrgyzstan have been established. So we can work in Central Asia and work throughout the world. So the entire world became our neighbors. And so our generation went there immediately, started to develop. So we have offered to do this in Uzbekistan. And also we've been learning from Belarus, from the high technology park. So the great artists, they steal good ideas. We've left the same letters. So also Yuri from EPAM was an impetus too, because we've been looking at them as amateur outsourcers. We had a strategist in Kiev, and so I've requested Anatoly to introduce me to Arkady Dobkin. And so we came and we said that we are growing to middle, and then you are taking everybody from us. So we are calling this Belarus vacuum cleaner. He said, we'll open in your country then. And that has happened. So Anatoly, I'd like to stress your role, your chief strategist in Eurasia. So your role here is crucial.
So I've come to participate, and there is a reason to be here. Our motto: live in Kyrgyzstan and work with the rest of the world. We're trying to be persistent, we're trying to promote our companies in the global market. I think there is no other chance for us. In Central Asia, our brotherhood, we joined our efforts and we're moving forward. The HighTech Park, they started with $1 million. Small companies, now these are big companies. 30 people, 50 people, now over 100 people are emerging. They create content for Central Asia. The guys get Grammy, guys from Kazakhstan get Grammys. So we really enjoy these events, share this joy, and it may happen in quite some time. And it will gain critical mass in some time. Now it's working in Silicon Valley. Our startups, they're getting their own place there. I think this is all great. living in Central Asia, living with the rest of the world, is now becoming the whole slogan for the younger generation. New Central Asians. Sometimes we forget we are brothers, forget that we are neighbors, that we promote some projects together. And the most important thing, the IT Park, Uzbekistan, Astana Hub, HighTech Park, Kyrgyzstan, also brothers from Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, also pulling up, trying to share with them some of our experience. 1,000 years ago, Central Asia, Al-Khwarizmi algorithms, Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, he did the most complex surgeries. Al-Jaza, Turkish speaking Al-Jaza was assembling robots. He is acknowledged as the father of robots. Da Vinci, he lived 300 years before Da Vinci. This was the year it's called the Arab Renaissance. I call it the Central Asian Renaissance. Turkish language, Farsi, Balasakoni, Kashgari. And they use Turkic languages for initial maps. At the center of physical. So we can have a conference or a summit. We'll invite all of the Central Asian countries. What I would like to say at the end is, right now the High Technology Park, we have 350 residents, mostly exports. Started with 1 million, 50 million, double increase this year, 100 million this year, mostly exports. And I see the exports growing in Kazakhstan and Astana Hub, in Uzbekistan too. This is amazing. This is a great opportunity to pay decent wages to our talents, compensate their labor properly. What was happening 1,000 years ago, where the innovations were born in Central Asia. Right now the world is awaiting for these new Ibn Sina, Al-Khwarizmi, Al-Jazari, Al-Farabi, Kashgari, Balasaguni, Peroni, and so on. So our three parks, and our brothers from Tajikistan, from Turkmenistan, I think the whole of Central Asia, the single in this particular objective, I think this will work out fine. Anatoly will support me. Thank you, Azis, for this warm things and historical information. Hopefully your neighborhood examples inspire you. You see lots of potential in this region. Now I'd like to give the floor, I'd like to enable our distinguished expert from Ernst & Young, Ivan Rodionov, to speak up about the taxation aspects of digitalization, because this is probably one of the most relevant and important questions. Ivan, please be brief so that we get some time for Q&A. Colleagues, great pleasure for me to participate in this panel. It's nice to see how the region's developing, how the hubs are developing, and they basically move the IT industry forward. Well, it's kind of difficult for me to speak about this. I've been working with taxes for 26 years. You can imagine how boring person I am. Over this period of time, I got one very important thing. Taxes, the inclusiveness, development, digitalization in Central Asia. Taxes can either kill any beginning and close the region, or they can incentivize it. So today I'll try to focus on the stimulating role of taxes and how you can improve on the existing tax regimes, what to add, what to adjust to enable the region to develop even stronger. I really enjoyed this phrase by Yuri Tanuk. Yuri Tanuk in his presentation said that 100,000 people, 100,000 experts is not enough for the region to become the leading in IT. How can we make it 1 million or even more? I think it greatly depends on what is the tax situation, immigration, and so on. For the potential people who relocate. And where does this presentation come from? Over the past 5 years, been working with the companies which choose where to go to, specifically based on the most recent events. There are people who must relocate. We have some of the larger companies addressing us with the questions. Central Asia, which country to choose? Moving to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Armenia, or Turkey, Baltic countries, Serbia. These are all alternatives, all competition for these talents. 100,000 now, if it is a correct number, is this a lot? Is this a little? We managed to analyze the inquiries from our customers and made some summaries. So what is good? The most important, the most relevant, what kind of problems do the investors see? If they see it, why don't they go elsewhere? Or why do they go to Turkey or Serbia? So this presentation is designed about what needs to be improved in terms of the existing regime. And the second part, an overview, the best international practices. What are the other types of IT incentives? What enables the countries to attract IT talents and IT businesses? And as one famous guy said, intelligently steal things or copy things to enable the region to develop even further. Question 1. What is good? What are the pros? IT hub, this is of course a locomotive. It's nice that those are out there. It's nice that these are developing. It gives me a lot of joy to see how the IT hubs are developing. If you summarize this, we don't want to talk specifics. Everyone has its own nuances and problems. Everyone produces social tax breaks, VAT breaks, to some extent. There are certain nuances, of course. Complete VAT incentives or some partial VAT incentives. Before they move, they can calculate their financial model and they see millions of dollars being saved. Now, the most important thing, what can be improved? What we heard from our clients, why some of them decide not to come. While there are certain moments, there might be some individual points, but the general message is this. The IT hub rules, to some extent, they are too tough. For instance, with regard to the priority activity types, not going to be saying this, but about 100% of activities, the companies registered in the hub should be a priority one, but it's hard to make it happen. Okay, we don't want to do any gambling or trade in weapons. We have a comprehensive, complicated business. We write codes, create software, and we don't know how it's gonna work. So we would like us to be sitting quietly and doing our work. This is what you need to do. And sometimes this should be 90% of activities, 100% of the activities. If you lower these criteria, if you make this criteria a bit more soft, allowing business to take care of their own things, there might be more people, more companies coming here than extraterritoriality principle. Well, there are some of the clients and they say they're potential we should be able to get incorporated in the country, but we don't want to make people travel physically. Some people sit in Turkey, some in Thailand, some in Russia. We don't want to touch them, but we would like to have the company anyway. Specific rules do not allow this, and this limits the circle of companies or candidates for the relocation. There is, if no extraterritoriality applied, only those who are ready to move physically travel. Schools, houses, and so on. Some of the properties need to be sold, some of them will need to be acquired. The third most important point, the law enforcement practices are needed. The rules are written fine. No audits. We cannot be completely confident that the State Revenue Committee in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, we're not sure whether they read this in the way we do. So we'll need to work together with the tax authorities to bring some clarity to the matter. It is really important for those investors who are looking into the possibilities of transfers. The regional expansion, well, all of the colleagues said that they organized the opportunities to be a branch of Astana hub, or like you said, Jakhongir. The same program also works. They'll need to enable those IT people to work where they can. Well, and you need to be able to adjust this with the help of bylaws. What kind of branches should they have? What should be clear conditions they must comply with so the companies could move consciously to define their HR policy. And then extra simulation measures. I'm going to be speaking about this later because, in fact, of course, there are different categories of clients. There are some of the companies who immediately start writing codes. There are venture investors who take 3 to 5 years to get any revenues. So for them, this lacking property, this is not relevant for us. It is going to be relevant in 3 to 5 years. And we might incur some losses. We should be able to exit the country. This is also important, and this requires some minor adjustments on the rules of the system to basically be able to understand moods of the investors. Additional, well, with the hubs, everything is fine. With the IT parks, these are growth locomotives, and I have great respect to the colleagues who develop all of these. But there are certain things that must be done at the country level, regardless of the companies and corporation at the IT hub or IT park. I'm going to be speaking about this in some detail, what comes from the international experience, but 3 main pillars.
Here we're talking about financial benefits and tax deduction. So it is very simple. If you invest $1 to IT park construction, $3 or $4 are invested on behalf of the government, and that means that the partnership between the public and the private sector are there. The second point is about harmonizing and optimizing personal taxation and residence issues. There should be no dual taxation matters. Just recently we discussed this. Once I am an IT specialist and I do have shares, and once you come to Kazakhstan, how they will be taxed. It will be taxed from turnover, which is not good. And of course, these taxation matters should be fine-tuned in order to make this profitable to be in Kazakhstan, avoiding dual taxation, etc. And number 3, it's about migration. And I think it is quite a simple idea. It is the so-called digital nomad visa, which is very useful in most of the countries, which helps people to move freely without residence permit. And that is very important, this kind of mobility, because some people move to Thailand because there it is much more easy to get a permit, both for work and residence. And now, at the very end, I would like to speak about the Central Asian region to become a leader to attract IT businesses. Where we are now, we made this review and where to go. And let us see what other countries do, what we have and what we don't have versus our peer states. There are R&D benefits. So that means you can have your copyright much easier. Like in the UK and the Netherlands, subsidies on behalf of the state, practically all leader countries have this scheme, which is very instrumental for investment decisions. Loans, which is again very important, like in Holland, there are loans to develop some technologies, and in case of failure, you may not return this loan. And there are such schemes. Of course, there are a lot of precautions against misuse and fraud, but nevertheless it is there. And also patent box benefits. That means that the intellectual property software database, once it is produced in a specific jurisdiction and then commercialized out there, it is taxed with a smaller tax rate, like in Holland, 29% versus 20%, which helps to attract intellectual property and make it residential in a given country. That means that the IP, once it is made in a country, in a given country, then it is subject of tax deduction, which is very important. When we're talking about the policy, insurance policy, it is another thing, and deductions on R&D. There is special benefits when you spend $100 for R&D, you can deduct up to $300 for taxation. It is everywhere possible again. So you see, this is what these countries established, and basically these are their competitive advantage versus Central Asian countries. We need to catch them up, and once we do this, it will be a very powerful tool to boost attractiveness of Central Asia, and then in a bigger scale, it will be possible for Microsoft, Oracle, Google, and other TNCs will manage to establish R&D hubs which will be focused on R&D and do the IT. Final slide. This is just a case which could happen in other countries, Slovakia, and you see that Slovakia is quite noticeable in IT landscape. They have a focused program to promote new IT and data centers establishment. A lot of incentives at all stages of their establishment. Government offers a lot of benefits and incentives at the establishment level, and then it offers deduction from R&D, and at the operational stage, everything what had been left as intellectual property in the Slovak Republic is subject of tax deduction up to 50%. And that is a very big incentive. This is just a model what our competitors doing somewhere in Eastern Europe, not to mention the Silicon Valley. Finally, I want to thank deeply my colleagues who are focusing on IT parks development, because this is basically the gateway for foreign investments. I want to thank you also the lawmakers which are scrupulously improving the tax base and the tax legislation. Those things are easy to borrow, easy to copycat, and we can calculate financial and economic impact easily and to demonstrate this impact to foreign investors. Thank you, Ivan. Indeed, highly informative, very valuable information for IT hubs representatives, very clear operational strategy based on world benchmarks, where to go in order to attract IT giants, in order to attract them into our IT parks. Considering the fact that we are behind the schedule already, I have a very short Q&A if anyone would like to ask a question to our experts. Don't be shy. My name is Raushan from Nazarbayev University. I just graduated recently Balashak program on my master courses, and I came across with a problem in terms of what we can do for education. There are hubs, etc., but in terms of employment, the alumni have very little opportunities, no programs which could help alumni to be employed. 1 year which they have to work here in the country to compensate governmental expenses for the Balashak program. And I had to use my personal strengths in order to be employed. Do you have, or are you planning to have such a career program for young alumni? I think you got to do this yourself. The government should not help you because we are not in a communist country anymore. But this is just my observation. My companies, I encountered a lot with the alumni, they could not draft their CV properly. Maybe my colleagues have a different opinion about that. So your question is whether there is a support for young alumni, young specialists in terms of employment opportunities. Yes, we have a program called Better Career, which is available online, and there you could find a lot of opportunities to be employed by big tech companies or to become their part-time worker. We have a number of good cases when young people from Kazakhstan are employed by big companies. You can go to astanahub.com, pick up the job opportunities section and send your CV. And also there are a lot of services on the market with which you can send thousands of CVs as application for available positions. Thank you. Yes, Azis, I also would like to add, after Bolashak, of course, maybe from your perspective, it seems like a difficult task, but as an employer, I explained the EPAM case when we tried to attract the EPAM company in Kazakhstan, and they opened several offices in Uzbekistan, in Kazakhstan, and in Kyrgyzstan. IT educational boom in Kyrgyzstan, and we're searching for people. We are headhunting for young and talented individuals. With the English language, we spoke much about English language here today, but we couldn't find them. We're doing our best just to find a community. EPAM is opening a community, QA, Agile, and they contributing a lot into educational technologies development. Xidel, they just established their office in Tashkent, but they are not yet show up in Bishkek. I hope you will get this young lady's CV and help her with employment, because we are badly understaffed everywhere. So what kind of major you have? IT? Unfortunately, this is inaudible. Well, I think you may start internship program, and that is probably the only answer to this challenge. Yes, Jakhongir, we have a special program, and we understand the challenges which young people have in terms of their employment. And together with the World Bank, we established a project for internship and prospective employment. Everything is about resources, after all. Thank you, Jakhongir. And from my perspective, I think we have to incentivize companies in order to have them employ more young individuals, not only in the capital cities, but in other cities as well. So this will give us more balanced staff situation in the IT sector. And we also have a special incentive for young students in Mastercard as well. And I give the floor to the MC. Okay, we are behind the schedule 15 minutes already, so first of all, let us applaud our wonderful speakers.